The awakening storm. The observation deck of Helios Station offered the most spectacular view in the Sol system. Commander Ilara Chen stood with her hands clasped behind her back, gazing at the blue-green jewel of Earth suspended against the velvet backdrop of space. 200 years of interplanetary expansion had brought humanity to a golden age. The Sol system was united, Mars was terraformed, and human colonies dotted the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. In the last 50 years, humanity had even begun reaching for the stars, with 4 extrasolar colonies now thriving around nearby suns. Peace reigned. The last armed conflict between human factions had ended 73 years ago. Resources were plentiful, and technology had solved many of humanity's oldest problems. It wasn't utopia. Humans would always find something to argue about. But it was the closest thing to paradise humanity had ever known. "Beautiful, isn't it?" said a voice behind her. Admiral Marcus Okafor joined her at the viewport, his weathered face reflecting in the reinforced glass. As head of the United Earth Defense Force, he commanded respect, though many questioned the need for his position in this age of peace. "It is," Ilara agreed. "Sometimes I wonder if we deserve it. History suggests we don't," Marcus said with a wry smile. "But we've learned. We're better than we were." Their conversation was interrupted by the soft chime of Ilara's communicator. The message was brief but urgent. Anomalous signal detected. Origin: Theta Sector. Priority Alpha. Theta Sector lay beyond the frontier of human expansion. No human vessel had ventured that far. The signal's classification as Priority Alpha meant it was definitely artificial and definitely not human. "We're not alone anymore," Ilara whispered. The signal became known as the Theta Pulse, a complex mathematical sequence repeating every 47 minutes. Earth's finest cryptographers and linguists worked tirelessly to decode it, and after 3 months, they succeeded. It was an invitation, or a summons. The message contained navigational data leading to a star system 24 light-years from Earth. The United Earth Council debated for weeks before deciding to send an expedition. The starship Prometheus, Earth's most advanced vessel, was dispatched with a crew of diplomats, scientists, and a small security detail. Captain Samuel Rivera had commanded the Prometheus for 5 years, but nothing had prepared him for what they found when they arrived at the coordinates specified in the Theta Pulse. A massive space station orbited the system's 5th planet, dwarfing the Prometheus. Its architecture was unlike anything humans had designed. All curves and spirals with no sharp angles, constructed from a material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Are we recording this?" Samuel asked, his voice barely audible. "Every sensor we have is active, Captain," responded Dr. Imani Okoro, the mission's chief scientist. Her dark eyes were wide with wonder and apprehension. The communication officer's console lit up. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission." The view screen flickered, and Samuel found himself looking at a being unlike any he had encountered. The alien had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on a face that seemed almost molten, constantly shifting in subtle ways. Its skin was iridescent, reflecting colors that human eyes struggled to process. "I am Vexella of the Varini Dominion," the being said, its mouth not moving, the words somehow forming directly in the minds of the Prometheus crew. "You have entered Varini space. Identify yourselves." The tone wasn't hostile, but there was no warmth in it either, just cold, efficient demand. Samuel stepped forward. "I am Captain Samuel Rivera of the United Earth vessel Prometheus. We come in peace, responding to your invitation." The alien's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Invitation. We issued no invitation. Your presence was detected, and your approach monitored." Samuel glanced at Imani, confusion evident on both their faces. If the Varini hadn't sent the Theta Pulse, then who had? "Nevertheless," Samuel continued, "we wish to establish peaceful relations between our peoples." The Varini Dominion does not establish relations. We assess, we categorize, and we determine status. Your species will be evaluated. Before Samuel could respond, the transmission ended. The Prometheus was suddenly bathed in a scanning beam that penetrated every deck, every compartment. The ship's systems flickered and then stabilized. "They just downloaded our entire database," the ship's AI reported. "All of it. History, science, culture, technology. Everything." Samuel felt a chill run through him. First contact scenarios had always assumed a gradual exchange of information, building trust slowly. The Varini had taken everything in an instant. 3 days passed with no further communication. The Prometheus maintained its position, sending regular hails that went unanswered. Then, without warning, a dozen smaller vessels emerged from the station, surrounding the human ship. "Captain, they're hailing us," the communications officer reported. Vexilla appeared on screen again. "Your evaluation is complete. Humanity is classified as a Category 3 species, technically advanced but philosophically immature. Your history of internal conflict indicates inherent instability. The Varini Dominion hereby establishes the following terms. All human colonies will be placed under Varini oversight. Resource extraction will be regulated according to Dominion standards. Human expansion will cease. Compliance is expected within 1 Earth year." Samuel's diplomatic training failed him. That's unacceptable. We're a sovereign species. Your acceptance is not required." Vexilla interrupted. "Only compliance. Return to Earth and convey our terms." 1 year. The connection terminated, and the Varini vessels dispersed, allowing the Prometheus to depart. As they set course for Earth, Samuel turned to Amani. "What just happened?" She shook her head slowly. "I think we just met the neighborhood bully." The United Earth Council chamber erupted in chaos when Samuel delivered the Varini's terms. Representatives from Mars, Europa, and the extrasolar colonies demanded immediate military preparation. Others advocated for compliance, arguing that humanity couldn't hope to stand against a species so technologically advanced. Admiral Okafor stood amidst the tumult, his face impassive. When he finally spoke, the chamber fell silent. "For 70 years, Earth has enjoyed peace," he said, "but peace is not the same as defenselessness. 30 years ago, the Council authorized Project Aegis, a classified initiative to develop defensive technologies in case we ever encountered hostile intelligence among the stars." Holographic projections appeared above the chamber floor, designs for ships, weapons, and defensive systems far beyond what was publicly known to exist. "We've been preparing," Okafor continued, "not for war, but for survival. The Varini may think they know everything about us from our databases, but there are some things we've kept off the networks." Commander Ilara Chen stepped forward. "Project Aegis has developed technologies based on principles the Varini may not understand. Our public databases contain our conventional physics, but our theoretical work on quantum entanglement and dark energy manipulation has been compartmentalized." "Are you suggesting we fight?" asked the representative from Mars, his voice trembling. "I'm suggesting we don't surrender before we've even tried to negotiate from a position of strength," Ilara replied. "The Varini evaluated us based on incomplete information. Let's show them they've miscalculated." The debate raged for days, but in the end, the Council authorized a response. Earth would not accept Varini terms. Instead, they would deploy the Aegis fleet to secure human colonies and establish a defensive perimeter. Diplomatic channels would remain open, but humanity would negotiate as equals, not subjects. 6 months later, the first Varini warships appeared at the edge of the Sol system. They didn't bother with demands or ultimatums this time. They simply attacked, targeting the defense platforms around Jupiter's moons. The Battle of Ganymede lasted less than an hour. When it was over, 3 Varini warships had been destroyed, and the rest had retreated. The cost was high. 2 human platforms destroyed, hundreds dead, but the message was clear. Humanity would not be easily conquered. Across the various human settlements, defense systems activated. On Mars, Massive shield generators created protective domes over the major cities. On Europa, submarine bases launched aquatic drones to patrol beneath the ice. In orbit around Earth, the Aegis fleet assembled, 50 ships equipped with technologies the Vareni had never seen in humanity's databases. As Commander Ilara Chen boarded her flagship, the UES Defiant, Admiral Okafor gave her final orders. "This isn't about revenge," he said. "It's not even about winning. It's about showing them that the cost of subjugating us is too high." Ilara nodded. "They think they know us because they've read our history, but they don't understand what makes humans different." "And what's that, Commander?" She smiled grimly. "We never fight harder than when someone tells us we can't win." The Defiant's engines flared to life, and Earth grew smaller behind them. Ahead lay the void. And the Vareni who thought they could claim it all for themselves. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The unyielding tide. The Vareni assault on humanity's colonies began in earnest 3 weeks after the Battle of Ganymede. Their warships, sleek, obsidian constructs that seemed to bend light around them, appeared simultaneously near all 4 extrasolar human settlements. What they found waiting for them defied their expectations. At Proxima Centauri, the human colony Novaterra had evacuated its surface structures. The Vareni, detecting no life signs, assumed victory and sent landing parties to secure the settlement. As their shuttles descended, the ground beneath the colony shifted. Massive doors previously camouflaged as natural terrain slid open, revealing underground hangars. From these emerged swarms of unmanned combat drones, each no larger than a human hand, but carrying a payload of quantum-locked explosive charges that could pierce Vareni hull material. The drones swarmed the shuttles, attaching themselves to critical junctions. When they detonated, the Vareni landing force was decimated. Those who survived the initial assault found themselves confronted by human defenders emerging from subterranean bunkers, wearing powered armor that enhanced their strength and speed. The Vareni had studied human military history extensively. They expected conventional tactics, fortified positions, linear defense strategies, hierarchical command structures. What they encountered instead was a fighting force that operated with extraordinary autonomy, adapting rapidly to changing circumstances, employing unconventional strategies that had no precedent in their historical database. Aboard the Vareni command ship Dominance, Supreme Commander Zexal watched the tactical displays with growing concern. "How are they doing this?" he demanded of his analysts. "Your evaluation indicated they would capitulate after an overwhelming show of force." The analysis chief, Vrekta, could offer no satisfactory explanation. "Their capabilities exceed our projections. They're employing technologies we didn't detect in their databases. They deceived us," Zexal realized. "They deliberately kept their true capabilities hidden." Similar reports came from the other colonies. At Tau Ceti, human ships employed a form of pseudo-FTL technology that allowed them to make micro-jumps within a battle space, appearing behind Vareni vessels and striking before retreating. At Epsilon Eridani, the colony had somehow developed a planetary shield that the Vareni weaponry couldn't penetrate. Most troubling was the situation at 82G Eridani, where the Vareni invasion force found itself fighting not just humans, but also an environmental defense system that used the planet's own ecosystem against the invaders. Engineered plants released spores that corroded Vareni equipment, while modified insects swarmed their camps, disrupting communications with neurotransmitter-affecting venom. The Vareni had never encountered such biological warfare. Their species had long ago transcended dependence on natural environments, living primarily in artificial habitats. They had forgotten what it meant to adapt to a world rather than forcing the world to adapt to them. On the UES Defiant, Commander Ilara Chen received the reports from the colonies with cautious optimism. The Aegis protocols were working. Humanity had dispersed its knowledge, ensuring that each colony developed unique defense strategies that couldn't be compromised if one fell. "Nova Proxima is holding," reported her tactical officer. The Vareni have withdrawn to orbit and are regrouping. What about the civilian population? Ilara asked. All secure in the deep shelters. No casualties reported among non-combatants. That had been a primary directive of the Aegis protocols, civilian protection above all else. Humanity had learned from its brutal past that victory meant nothing if it came at the cost of those they were fighting to protect. Status of the quantum net. Ilara asked her communications specialist. Fully operational. All colonies are synchronized. The Vareni still haven't detected the entanglement relays. The quantum net was perhaps humanity's greatest secret weapon. A communication system based on quantum entanglement that allowed instantaneous coordination between all human forces, regardless of distance. Traditional communications could be intercepted or jammed, but the quantum net was undetectable and unblockable. Send word to all colonies, Ilara ordered. Operation Poseidon begins in 6 hours. Operation Poseidon was the counteroffensive, a coordinated strike against Vareni forces designed not to destroy them, but to demonstrate humanity's resolve and capabilities. The goal wasn't extermination but education. Zexol was considering a strategic retreat when alarms blared across the dominance. The ship's sensors detected multiple anomalies forming around them, spatial distortions that their systems couldn't identify. What is happening? He demanded. Unknown spatial phenomenon, the science officer reported. It's as if space itself is. The officer never finished his sentence. A blinding flash enveloped the bridge, and when it cleared, the view outside the ship had changed completely. They were no longer orbiting Novaterra. Instead, they faced a massive asteroid field that their navigational systems couldn't identify. Where are we? Zexol demanded. Calculating position based on stellar cartography. The navigator responded, hands moving frantically over the controls. This is impossible. We're in the Oort cloud of the Sol system. We've been displaced nearly 4 light-years instantaneously. Before Zexol could process this information, a communication request came through on all frequencies. When he accepted it, a human face appeared on the main viewer. Commander Ilara Chen. Supreme Commander Zexol, she said, her voice calm and measured. By now you've realized your forces have been relocated. This is not an attack. It's a demonstration. What have you done? Zexol asked, unable to keep the shock from his voice. We've employed technology based on principles your scientists dismissed as theoretical, quantum tunneling on a macroscopic scale. Your entire fleet has been transported to neutral space near our home system. Impossible, Zexol whispered, though the evidence before him contradicted his assertion. You evaluated humanity based on incomplete information, Ilara continued. You saw our history of conflict and concluded we were unstable, dangerous. What you fail to understand is that our struggles taught us to innovate, to adapt, to find solutions where none seemed to exist. As she spoke, tactical displays showed Zexol that all Vareni forces had been similarly displaced, removed from combat without a single additional shot being fired. We don't want war, Supreme Commander. We never did. But we will not be subjugated. We offer you a choice. Retreat and reconsider your evaluation of humanity, or continue this conflict knowing now what we're capable of. The transmission ended, leaving Zexol staring at the stars of a system his forces had never intended to engage directly. The Dominion strategy had always been to secure the colonies first, then use them as leverage against Earth. Now they found themselves facing the heart of human power without preparation. 3 days passed without response from the Vareni. On Earth, the United Council remained in emergency session, prepared for either peace or escalation. Admiral Okafor and Commander Chen had presented their assessment. The quantum displacement had bought humanity time, but it wasn't a permanent solution. The technology required enormous energy and couldn't be used again without months of preparation. If they attack again, we'll have to face them conventionally, Okafor told the Council. The silence was broken when a single Vareni vessel approached Earth, broadcasting a request for diplomatic channels. It was a small ship, clearly not a warship, with minimal defensive capabilities. From it emerged not Zexol, but a different Varini, Vexala, the diplomat who had first contacted the Prometheus. In the council chamber, Vexala stood before the assembled representatives of humanity, his form seeming to shimmer in the light. "The Dominion has reassessed its position," he stated without preamble. "Your species has demonstrated capabilities and adaptability beyond our initial evaluation. We miscalculated." It wasn't quite an apology, but from what humanity had learned of Varini culture, it was a significant concession. "The terms previously presented are withdrawn. The Dominion proposes instead a treaty of non-interference. Your territories will remain sovereign. In return, we ask only for defined boundaries and open diplomatic channels." The council members exchanged glances. It was more than they had hoped for, a recognition of humanity's right to exist freely. Admiral Okafor stepped forward. "And what guarantee do we have that the Dominion won't simply regroup and try again when they believe they have the advantage?" Vexala's form shifted slightly, what humans had come to recognize as the Varini equivalent of discomfort. "The Dominion has existed for 12,000 of your years," he said. "In that time, we have encountered 47 spacefaring species. None have ever surprised us as yours has. Our reassessment includes the recognition that humanity possesses qualities the Dominion has lost: adaptability, unpredictability, and what you might call creativity." He paused, his four eyes blinking in sequence. "There is much we could learn from each other if hostilities cease." The council deliberated for hours before reaching a decision. They would accept the treaty, but with additional provisions: a demilitarized zone between human and Varini space, a joint scientific exchange program, and a mutual defense pact against external threats. When Vexala received these terms, he studied them with that unnerving, unblinking gaze. "The Dominion accepts," he said finally. "You are not what we expected, humans." Commander Ilara Chen, who had been observing the negotiations, allowed herself a small smile. "That," she said, "is humanity's greatest strength." 1 year after the Treaty of Earth, Ambassador Samuel Rivera, formerly captain of the Prometheus, stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Unity Station. The massive structure orbited at the edge of the Sol system, serving as a neutral meeting ground between human and Varini representatives. Beside him stood Vexala, who had become his counterpart in the ongoing diplomatic relations. "Your people continue to surprise us," Vexala commented, watching a demonstration of human artists creating an interactive light sculpture. "This concept of art, creating without practical purpose, it is difficult for us to comprehend, yet fascinating." Samuel nodded. "And your advancements in propulsion technology have already helped us improve our own ships. I think both our peoples are learning that diversity of thought leads to strength, not weakness." "The Dominion believed uniformity was the path to stability," Vexala admitted. "Your species has demonstrated an alternative approach." "Unity without uniformity," Samuel suggested. "Strength through diversity." As they spoke, a communication came through from a deep space monitoring station. A new signal had been detected, coming from a distant sector beyond both human and Varini space. Another invitation. Samuel wondered aloud. Or perhaps a warning, Vexala countered. They looked at each other, and for a moment, a silent understanding passed between them. Whatever came next, neither humanity nor the Varini would face it alone. The universe was vast and full of wonders and dangers. But perhaps the greatest wonder was how adversaries could become allies when they recognized the strength in their differences. Beyond the viewport, Earth shone like a blue jewel against the backdrop of infinite stars, a reminder of how far humanity had come and how far they still had to go. The journey would not be easy, but they would face it as they had always faced challenges. With determination, adaptability, and the unwavering belief that the impossible was simply a problem waiting for a solution. The silent stars watched, and for the first time, Humanity knew they were not watching alone.